Good evening, this is John Milburn for Laws 11057, Introduction to Law. We're into week 7 of Term 2, 2017. This term we have a number of ambitions, and one very high on the agenda is legal research. Essentially, legal research is going to take us 3 weeks, so this will be the second of 3-week sessions. I hope that you've done the homework that I set, which was to go exploring, go on a voyage of discovery, and look at some of these databases without rushing it. Just enjoy the process of discovering things. For those of you that have shared information about what you've found, both in terms of the platforms that we've been talking about and other platforms and other procedures, thank you very much. I think one that comes to mind recently was Nicole, I think, telling us about EndNote, and that's prompted me to do something about it. So thank you very much. It was you, Nicole, wasn't it? Yes. All right, thank you. So tonight we're going to talk more about legal research. Last week, you'll recall that we discussed the fact that Austlii was about to embark on its beta design. Well, guess what? This week it went live. So we're going to, but you all knew that, didn't you? Jade is nodding to say, I knew that. I knew that. Sarah's but we're just going to have another look at that. I'm going to share the screen. I mucked up some things that I really wanted to get right last week. So we'll have another go, and by mentioning the new version, it gives me an opportunity to correct an error from last week. All right, so let's see if I can find the right screen. Firstly, are you looking at a screen that says Federal Register of Legislation? Right, okay. 3 screens, still working on the technology, getting there. Rather than attempt to find my 3rd screen, I'll bring my Austlii over to the 2nd screen. It will come as no surprise to you that after Austlii, we're going to deal with the Federal Register of Legislation. All right, so Austlii, this is the new version. It's still a wonderful resource. Last week, I attempted to show you some searches in relation to negligence and balcony and fall. I'm just going to ask a favour. If you're not speaking, I'll get you to mute your microphone. But if you do want to speak, just speak, or use the chat facility, and I'll try and keep an eye on that as well. Okay, so here we have the new version of Austlii. It's very good. No surprises there. Let's look at searching some databases. If we include here in the standard search the words negligence and balcony and fall and do a search, it will come up with 669 documents. What we can then do is refine the search by making it an advanced search. So you saw the little drop down there over on the top right hand side. If we go to advanced search, we can then refine this by selecting the appropriate database. To select the database that we want, untick each of the databases and then go and retick the one that you want. At least this is the way I'm doing it. Case law databases, we've ticked that. We'll now find the advanced search button on this little screen that I've got, and we'll see what we'll come up with. So we've, sorry, I'm mucking it up again. And I had this down pat. I even practiced it. I think what's happened is I've clicked on the wrong one. I'm going to start again, sorry. So let's go to that search and we'll refine it from there. 669. We'll now refine by database. We'll look at cases and legislation, and we'll select the Queensland Supreme Court or the Supreme Court of Queensland, Court of Appeal, and there are 5 documents there. So that's the sort of search that you would select if you want to go straight to the most recent highest authorities in Queensland. So for example there, the Simon Beecroft case. looks like one worth checking out. If you want to go about it a different way, and there are plenty of ways to do this, I'm sure that some of you would say, I know a quicker way to do it, what you're trying to do, John. Start again, go through the same words. This time, the database that we'll select will be the sorry. Let's go back again. Sorry. I did practice this, you know.
John, do you want to know the quick and easy way to do it?
Please. Is that who was that, Nicholas? Now,
yes, John.
Can you take over my screen?
Probably.
Or can you share?
I probably could, but I can show you what to do. If you go up into all databases first, where you put your search in.
Here.
If you click on the drop down, up in the search box up the top, click on the drop down and select Advanced Search first.
Yes. That's actually what I was doing before. Yep.
And then where it says enter your search, then put in your term, because if you put in your term first and then select Advanced Database, it wipes the term out.
Ah, that's what was happening to it. Thank you, Nicholas, because when I was practicing it, I was actually doing it this way, and for some reason I decided on the run to change it. Thank you very much.
And then, and then do what you're doing now. Select your database that you want.
So we've got all law journals.
And then select search, and it should pull it up straight through.
Thank you very much. Yep, and there it is. And the one that I thought was interesting, perhaps on this topic, might be Tina Coburn's duty of care of landlords of residential premises. All right, thank you very much, Nicholas, and thank you for your patience as we worked, as you guided me through that. Okay, so that's the OSLI process. And you can see now that with the databases, you can do searches using plain text or the Boolean connectors. And I'm not sure if that shows up on the advanced search if I go back to that. So you can do it auto search, they call it. So it's just ordinary words, or you can still do a Boolean inquiry or query. Okay, so let's now look at the next thing that I have here, which is the Federal Register of Legislation. As I mentioned, it'll come as no surprise that that's what we're going to talk about now, because it's up on the screen. We've mentioned this a few times already. We know that it provides excellent up-to-date information in relation to Commonwealth legislation. Explanatory memorandum is important, and information about gazettes and bills. So explanatory memoranda made available after OSLI's updates aren't necessarily included in the OSLI database. So some of these things you'll find in Federal Register of Legislation. And you can access the explanatory memoranda from 1996. Now, there is a guide to using this website, and it's got a note about the site. So there's plenty of opportunities for you to gain information as you run through. So the guide to the website, which I'll call up as a separate page, is very useful, and it provides you with information about how to use the website effectively. If we go back to the home page, you'll see that the blue boxes talk about acts in force. So when we say in force, it means that that's an act as it is at the moment. If you want to see the acts as they were passed, then you need to look in different areas. So the acts in force will show you effectively the acts as they apply at the moment. So you've got the choice in force, no longer in force, as made. So if you want to see each of the amending acts, then that's an opportunity to do so. So the sidebar menu provides you with an opportunity to see all the legislation, and the sidebar also has links to, say, the Commonwealth Constitution. So that will give you a direct link to the Constitution here on the left-hand side, and the acts in force as amended or as repealed. So let's have a look at an example. I take it you've all played around with this site. So What I'm showing you won't necessarily be anything new. The Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act, for example, provides information, and that is the Act there. You can click on the details, or you can click on the other information to look at specific sections. So you've got a table of contents there, which is now linked. This is much better than the old ComLaw site where it wasn't linked through hyperlinks. And that's an excellent place to look at information about the legislation as it is in force. You can view the series, which is this one here. And if you view the series, it will give you a chance to look at expanded information in relation to that legislation. So you'll see where the legislation has been amended, how it's been amended, what incorporated amendments are included into that, and it will provide you with other information that you might need as part of your research. You've got related bills, enabling acts, and other information. So all of this is now hyperlinked, and it provides an excellent resource. What you may need is information about the bills or the explanatory memorandum. So if we just go back to the Act in force, and I'll just use the back arrow, hopefully that will work. You've got a chance to see the specific provisions, and you've got the titles, each of the headings for the various parts and chapters. So, example on bilateral agreements, which is very important, it expands from there. If we look at on the left-hand side under Acts, we have the legislative instruments. That provides for detail about the regulations and the rules that are relevant, and that might be, for example, in force. So again, just follow through on these different links, and if we look to environmental, you'll find information about the legislative instruments that are in force. Notifiable instruments, the one below it. Okay, so there's the information about the various materials that relate to those acts that start with EN. If we look at notifiable instruments, we're really talking about ministerial directions or orders that may relate to some of the acts that have binding effect. Usually we only see the judiciary making declarations, but here we see examples of the executive making declarations as part of the executive branch of government. So there is, under EN, Entrepreneurs Program Direction number 1, and this has force of law, even though it's not made through Parliament, it's made by the Minister in an executive function. So there's another opportunity for searching. Okay, again, I take it that you've had a good chance to look through the Federal Register of Legislation. Very important, and please continue to look at that website and other important websites as we go. All right, so where else would we look for Queensland legislation? We've shown you Ausley. Where else would you look?
Legislation.qld.gov.au.
Yep. And what's the advantage of looking there as opposed to, say, Ausley?
Well, because it's law passed by the Queensland Parliament specifically.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so, and I think I've shown you the difference between the new website and the website that's under construction. So keep that in mind as well. All right, so if you wanted to find a second reading speech relevant to a piece of legislation, where would you look for that? Say in Queensland legislation. Well, what is a second reading speech? Anybody?
Are they the memorandums that you were talking about, the discussion?
Close. The explanatory memorandum are information that's produced relevant to legislation, but it's not the second reading speech.
Is it got to do with having a bill being passed through in the process to become an act?
That's it, David. Thank you. So typically when a bill goes through a process to become an act, it will go through 2 or 3 readings, and the second reading speech is the important one because that's where the minister who introduces the bill typically will explain the purpose behind it. Now that's relevant if you're looking at a subject like statutory interpretation or you're trying to mount an argument. So when you're doing your research about legislation, you should also keep in mind looking at the explanatory note, as we call it in Queensland, the explanatory memorandum as it is in the Commonwealth, and look at the second reading speech, which is the ministerial speech. So you need to be able to find these things quickly, even if you're doing a take-home exam or something else. So when it comes to the second reading speeches, I would probably look to the Queensland Parliament website because, as David identified, we're really talking about something that occurred during the process associated with Parliament rather than with the courts. So I'll share the screen now. We'll look at the Queensland Parliament website. This one's a little bit old-fashioned. I imagine it will be updated. You'll see information here about record of proceedings. You'll see information about Hansard here as well, and explanatory memoranda, second reading speeches as well. So that's a website that you need to explore and think about how to work your way through it. So the second reading speech is also known as the explanatory speech as well. So if you drop down on each of these, you can then start to find some of these things that are relevant. So both in terms of the way the Parliament works, the work of the Parliament, which provides more information about, say, bills and legislation over here on the left-hand side, information about what is new coming through before the House, and information about the explanatory speeches. So sometimes you may need to look at bills through previous parliaments and search your records in that manner. Okay. The next one I want to show you is a thing called LawLex, L-A-W-L-E-X. Now this is by SAI Global, and it's another way of browsing for legislation. To do this, you can use simple or advanced search engines. And the advantage with this one is that you can search legislation and regulations by category. So here we have a drop-down where we can search, and this is lawlex.com.au if you're looking for it. So we go to Queensland, and a quick search is free. So if, for example, if you don't know that the Succession Act is the principal piece of legislation dealing with wills and estates, this sort of search will help you. So if we go to Browse Legislation, which is again a free search, that's the third one down, and we untick everything except Queensland, and tick Queensland, we can now search for a category of legislation. So we know that we want legislation that deals with wills and estates. So we go to the bottom, we see a subcategory, which we don't worry about, push browse, and what should happen is you now receive information about legislation and regulations that relate to that topic of wills and estates in relation to legislation in Queensland. And you can discount the ones that are obviously not going to be relevant, which leaves us with the final one, the Succession Act, as being the legislation that is relevant to wills and estates in Queensland. The Guardianship and Administration Act is one that I work with a lot in QCAT, dealing with appointment of administrators and guardians and dealing with orders for powers of attorney. So that act applies if people are alive, but the Succession Act applies in relation to people that have passed on. Now, it's actually a link to the authorised legislation. It doesn't keep it there. So you can see here, PA, the Principal Act is and the source here is the Office of the Queensland Parliamentary Council, which is, as Nicholas said before, legislation.com. Okay, so SAO Global is a handy way of working out what legislation might be relevant if you don't know the name of the legislation that you're chasing, but you know a category of legislation. The Lex Law, yeah, sorry. Yes, Sarah?
Is it like all of the links in there where you, like after you've found the legislation in LawLex, if you click where it's taking you to SAI Global where it says view legislation, does it always take you to a PDF of the Act?
I believe so, yes. And it will take you to the authorised source. So SAI Global doesn't keep a data bank as many of the others like Austlii do. Okay. There's also standards. Now, let's see if we can find this. I'll just go to LawLex and you'll see somewhere, if I can see it on the sheet, tell me if you can see it. There's I found standards, and I found that really useful to keep in mind if you're looking for information about cross-referencing standards within Australia. And I'll just share the screen so we can have a look at that. All right, so again, LawLex, and you're looking for information about standards, which, to be honest, I just can't see at the moment, but I know it's there.
Very bottom of the screen in the grey section, last link on the left-hand side, Standards Online, John.
Ah, there it is. Thank you. So click on that. Thank you, Nicholas. And there we have information about standards. So that looks like a subscription service. But if you're in that industry, that would be useful. Okay, let's now think about other pieces of or sources of legislation. We know that you can look at Austlii, you can look at the authorised areas of practice, but there are some others. So Westlaw, Law Now, which is Lexisnexis, Law One, which is Timebase, and IntelliConnect, which is CCH. So all of these are accessible through your library. So we'll have a look at those when we're looking at the library and those individual platforms. So let's move on to case law. So we've mostly been looking at legislation. In terms of case law, you need to understand a couple of basics. The first is the Australian judicial hierarchy. We all know that we've got the High Court, then the Courts of Appeal, the Supreme Court, the District Court, the Magistrates Court, tribunals. In the state jurisdiction. In the federal jurisdiction, we have the High Court, the full court of the Federal Court, the Federal Court, we have the Federal Circuit Court dealing with those federal issues. And we need to know the doctrine of precedent. So we understand, of course, that if a decision is made by a district court judge on a particular area of law, that won't be binding on a Supreme Court judge, but it will the other way round. So if the High Court makes a determination about a question of law, then that will be binding. We don't go beyond that in terms of looking for counter-arguments. And even within the decision, you would have read about two aspects. The first is what we call the ratio decidendi, or the reason for the decision, or sometimes we call it the ratio, RATIO, and it's DECIDENDI. So that's the reason, and it relates to the actual outcome of the case. In other words, the court has said, here is the law, here's how it's applied, here is the conclusion. That will be the ratio. Contrast that to things that are said, if you like, in passing. And it's almost as if the court is saying, all right, well, while we're discussing this topic, let me add this because I think it's relevant. Now, that's relevant information in terms of interest, but it's not relevant to the actual outcome. It's a statement by the way or in passing. If the High Court says something in passing or by the way, you take notice, even though it's not legally binding as a precedent. So we call that obiter dictum, or just obiter, or maybe just dicta. So make sure that you're aware when you're reading cases about the hierarchy and also whether it's ratio or whether it's obiter. So if we were looking for case law in Queensland, a few places that you might want to think about, obviously Austlii, because we've seen that already. But I want to show you the Queensland Reports website. If it will come up on my screen, that would be excellent. The Queensland Reports deal with cases from 1974, and it's not coming up. So I'll just open the hyperlink that I've got here on my screen, paste it into my browser, and hopefully it will work. All right, it's starting to come up slowly now. Okay, so this is Queensland Reports, the authorised reports of the Supreme Court of Queensland. And you know that there are authorised reports and there are not authorised reports. So here we have the Queensland Reports, what's called Key Decisions Database, the Queensland Law Reporter, and the problem with this is that you can't actually access the Queensland Reports from this website. You'd think you can, but if we click on here, Queensland Reports on the right-hand side, it will give us information about the Queensland Reports and information about how to use the Queensland Reports, but it won't actually give us access to the Queensland Reports. And you'll see there that it says the Queensland Reports are the authorised reports for key decisions in the Supreme Court of Queensland. Not all of them, and you can either buy the bound volumes or, and you'll see down on the fourth paragraph, a statement that you can refer to Lexisnexis and subscribe to obtain the Queensland Reports themselves. Now, fortunately, we have a subscription through the library to Lexisnexis, so you can access the Queensland Reports through that fashion. So essentially, Lexisnexis pays a lot of money to be the authorised provider of the reports for Queensland. That's all done through the Queensland Reports website, through the Incorporated Council of Law Reporting, but the reports aren't actually here. If we go back to the home page, you'll see that there is information about key reports, and that's under here, online databases. So there are some databases. If we look at key decisions databases, you'll see that it's a reference to new decisions of the Supreme Court, which are likely to be reported in the Queensland Reports. So there is no search engine here on this page, but this is where you can capture case law that has not yet made it to the Queensland Reports, because there's a time lapse. Where the Queensland Reports are included, they may be a year after the actual case was heard, maybe sometimes later. So if we scroll down, you'll see under administrative law, there's a reference there to a case from 2013, a couple, which are likely to become part of the Queensland Reports, but they're not part of the Queensland Reports yet. So if we look over here in torts, you'll see that there are 17 cases. I'm just clicking on that link now, and it gives you an idea of some of those cases. So if you're looking for something that's right up to, that's an authorised material in waiting, then that's a good way of finding it. If we go back to the page for the Queensland Reports, you'll find, sorry, I'll just go to the top of the page. I've really got to learn some more computer skills. Go back to the home page. And the other thing is Queensland Law Reporter. I'm sure I've told you about the Queensland Law Reporter. This is an excellent weekly supplement to the Queensland Reports. It's available by subscription, but I understand, certainly I get the subscription each week, and I'm sure it's free. So if you subscribe to the Queensland Law Reporter, it's another opportunity to obtain not only up-to-date information, but excellent case summaries and links to updated articles that may be of great interest. And there it is. There's the ribbon just below the picture that keeps changing. Click here to register and obtain your free weekly Queensland Law Reporter by email. I urge you to do that. It's an excellent publication. All right, let's talk about, so that's queenslandreports.com.au. Now, let's talk about case citators. Oh, and thanks, Nicholas. Nicholas has given us the website address. What's a case citator? If we're using a citator, what are we doing in case law? Any thoughts? No? All right, somebody's got to be Googling it, I imagine, at the moment. So a case citator is an index of cases, and it provides you with an opportunity to see the way in which cases have progressed through the lower courts. It also provides information about how a case has been treated in later decisions. So it may be that a case that you have come across from the Queensland Supreme Court Court of Appeal in 2010 may have been later affirmed, or it may have been considered, it may have been applied somewhere else, or it may have even been overruled or distinguished. So what you need to do is this. If you find a case that you think is very good, before you put it into your assignment as being the authority upon which you rely, you want to check that it hasn't been dealt with adversely in some other later proceedings, or alternatively, if it has been applied in later proceedings, that will add strength to your argument. So the way you do that is by using a case citator. And when a case is considered by a court at a later time, that process is called noting up. And you remember in Ostley, we have the note up function, which is where we have an index of cases that have been noted up or considered by other courts. In the United States, I think they call it shepherdizing. So when you're searching cases, here's how a citator can help you. Firstly, it will help you find cases on a subject area. Second is, it will provide you with details of a case. And the third is that if you want to find cases, you may want to find the legislation upon which that case is based. So, what are some examples of citators? If part of your toolbox is, I use these citators, what would you include? Does anyone know the names of any citators? We've already mentioned Ostley, that's got a citator. I should have shown you actually while I was in Ostley. I might have to go back. All right, so first point, yes. Who puts out first point? Westlaw. Lawsite, yes. Lawsite is the case citator for Ostley. Lexisnexis do have a case citator. We call that case base. And Jade has a case citator as well. It's a very similar name. It's called case trace. So there, if you can master those, law cite, case trace, first point, and case base, then I don't think you need to look any further. Now, I mentioned that case trace is through Jade. Let's have a look at Jade because it is absolutely terrific resource. I think I've shown you this before. It's one of my favourites. And I'm going to share the screen. And I don't know if this will work or not, but I'm going to play a very short video, which you'll see over here on the right-hand side. I've clicked the link and no, it wants me to do something else. So I'm not going to play the video, but I'm going to urge you to go to Jade. And the citation is, or just put in Jade by Barnett. I'm sure you've already done this. And have a look at the video. It only goes for a minute. What is Jade? Over on the right-hand side. Jade is an acronym, and it stands for Judgments and Decisions Enhanced. And it's a service provided by Barnett. Barnett has a few different services. I'll just digress for a moment to go into the Barnett website if I can find it. And you'll see that Jade is one of its main platforms, but Barnett is really for barristers, but accessible for everyone. Also has information and resources for internet and hosting. But the one I do is Jade. Okay, so that's barnett.com.au. So here's Jade. So Jade will help you with a number of things. Firstly, we've talked about the alerts. If you're not receiving the alerts now, you should be. And you'll receive updates on new legislation or decisions by email, but you do need to register, and you can register for free over on the top right-hand corner. Another thing is digests, and you can keep up to date with RSS news feeds by the courts, and I get that as well. Now, you can, if you like, register so that you have a Jade library and use Jade marks, but that will require a bit more work to do. And again, you have to register. So let's try another worked example. I need everyone watching carefully because I know that I won't be able to see these things when I start. Negligence and balcony and fall as a Jade search. I know I'm going to make a mistake, and Nicholas is going to say, don't do that. I'm just going straight in, Nicholas, and we'll see how we go. So we come up with 512 results. For negligence and balcony and fall, that's too many. We can't work with that. So let's see if we can use the advanced filters. Over on the left-hand side, halfway down, you've got show the advanced filters. Let's click on that. And you'll see that it comes up with a variety of collections. So from the collection drop-down, let's select some courts. We'll go with the High Court, and we'll go with the Supreme Court of Queensland. You have to scroll down a bit. If you're clever enough, you'll be able to use some sort of shortcut key to get there, but I scroll down. And we'll go with Supreme Court of Queensland under State, Supreme Court of Queensland. All right, so now we've got a little bit more definition by way of advanced search. And let's look at the topic and select the topic, and we'll go with torts law, or more precisely, negligence. So now we're starting to filter the search, and now if we search that, we come up with 9 results. So that's much more workable. If we consider, let's say, Palmer against Finnegan, it's a 2010 Queensland Supreme Court case that deals with dangerous premises, injuries to persons entering, and negligence. a contractor fell off a balcony, that's looking pretty close to what we're after. So what you can do is click on the excerpt, which is what the default. On the right-hand side, you can click on Summary. So that gives you the basic information. Or you can click on Mini Viewer, which provides you with a quick access to the decision itself. But now we'll go click on the title. So those things, Excerpt, Summary, and Mini Viewer, are on the right-hand side of the ribbon. Now we'll click on the link to the case itself. And you'll see that certain words corresponding with the search terms have been highlighted to make it easier to navigate around. But what I want you to do, and this is really the magic of Jade's case trace, is have a look at the right-hand corner. I'm not sure if you can see this very clearly, but this green box over here on the right-hand corner has some options available to you. So what you can do is have a look in Citation Report, for example. We'll click on that. And now we can see where this case has been considered in different ways. Firstly, it's litigation history. We know this is a case through the Queensland Supreme Court, but it has a bit of a history to it. So 8th of February and 24th of March. There are cases citing this decision. So here we have an instance where the Queensland Supreme Court, about a month after the decision was handed down, referred to this case in Spackman against Stevens. And at the bottom we have information about cases cited by the decision, and this is a really good function. So you'll see here you can click on certain things, and if you click on that, it will give you information about how the case was referred to. Sorry, where in the other case it was referred to. So that one didn't work out too well. I'll just try another part. Okay, so what we're doing here is this. We're identifying the case that we're interested in. We want to know what cases the court considered in coming to its decision. We don't have to scroll through the whole case. By using this facility in Case Trace, you can identify immediately that paragraph 35 is relevant to the decision of Jones and Bartlett. The High Court case was referred to in paragraph 35 of the Palmer and Finnegan case. Okay, so, but also you can, so you can go to the litigation history, or you can look at cases that have come after or cases that came before in those drop boxes. Now also in Jade, we have Jade Browser. Get rid of that. And Jade Browser is here. Let's get rid of that search, no. And you can undertake various searches based on I hadn't wiped that search term, so that's where the same information has basically come up again. But Jade Browser gives you that same opportunity to browse by topic or by date, citation, or court, and it's a matter of working your way through those things. Okay, so that's Jade and that's Case Trace. The next one is Lexisnexis, and this is accessible through your library. I'll just stop the share for a moment. Are there any questions, comments? No? All right. So, has everyone been into the library? If you haven't, you must go this week. All right. Has anyone got a preference? Do you prefer Lexisnexis or Westlaw or CCH when it comes to those resources? Perhaps if you could just type in, I'd be interested to see which is the most popular. Right, Westlaw, CCH, Westlaw, Westlaw. All of them. Okay. I'm going to share the screen. We didn't get any vote. Oh, Westlaw is the popular one. I'm going to share the screen and I'm going to show you the advantages in Lexisnexis, which I think is really good. I mean, they're all good. So Lexisnexis. Here we have great access to resources. We mentioned the Queensland Reports before. This is where you'll find them. I'll show you where to find them in a moment. But you'll find the Queensland Reports, the authorised reports here. If you go into court, don't take the Ostley version when the Queensland Reports is available. You must take the authorised version. Okay, what else do we have in here? We've mentioned already that Lexisnexis has case-base, which is its citator. So you'll see there, halfway down, case-based cases. That's the citator for Lexisnexis. You'll also find Halsbury's, wonderful resource. You must get to know Halsbury's. The Encyclopedic Australian Legal Dictionary is excellent. I'd recommend you can find information here about the federal legislation, and also Australian legal words and phrases up the top. I mean, Carter's criminal law is legendary. Australian current law is good, and Cross on Evidence, one of the leading texts on evidence law. So there's a lot of really good material. Just if you go down here under My Favourites, which is a bit of a misnomer because they're really the librarian's favourites, or whatever Lexisnexis tell you is your favourite, you can click on Show More Resources or Sources. So if we click on that, and it's very slow internet, we can get our way to the Queensland Reports. It comes up in a different format, but this is the way to get to the authorised reports. And I'm sorry about this slow internet. But they are there, all right, it's slowly coming up. And we're looking to browse these sources, and you'll see over on the right-hand side a reference to, well, sorry, you'll see drop-downs in relation to a whole range of areas that are relevant to your studies. So just investigate those things and have a look for the material that you're after. Okay, so let's have a look at an example. We'll go back to Explore by Topic. So up the top-hand side, top ribbon, you've got a number of options. One is Explore by Topic. On the left, you have a number of options to choose. Let's go with Torts and Civil Liability. Select that and drill down to, sorry, very small little icons. And you can drill down to a number of more specific areas. And the one that we're going to choose for the moment is Principles of Negligence. Tick that one. Now, on the right-hand side, you can become more selective, and we'll go with Case Law and Citators and Digests. In the search terms, which is optional, we'll go with Negligence and Balcony and Fall. We'll hit Search, and we'll just see what happens there. You'll see now a number of search results have come up, and what you can do is narrow the search by reference to more specifically the type of information you're after, And if we go to unreported decisions in Queensland, you'll see some unreported decisions that may be able to assist you with your inquiries. Now, sometimes when you're doing these searches through different platforms, you'll come up with the same information, unsurprisingly. So remember that Simon Beecroft case? We found that earlier. So this is just another way to gain that same information. But there's other information. So here, for example, down the bottom, we've got a decision which was an unreported judgment. So it's not in the Queensland Report, you won't find it there, but it's from 1983 in the Queensland Supreme Court. And there's a brief note here about negligence, breach of duty, someone fell, caused injury. So that might be a relevant case for your inquiries. So that's the sort of worked example that you can use when you're doing your research. Let's just go back to the homepage, Lexisnexis, and do another worked example. If we go to practice areas, for example, at the top, so the last one was explore by topic. Now we're looking at practice areas. And if we go to litigation, evidence and procedure, again, if we type in our search terms, and search that, we come up with about 300 results. But on the left-hand side, we can narrow the search to unreported decisions in Queensland, and there's 25 of them, and that has much the same information. There's Palmer and Finnegan, we found that before, but there's a little bit more. So that's another way of broadening your search. So Lexisnexis allows you to search using the topic area, the practice or the source directory. So up the top, another one is source directory. Now, if we go to the home page, there are some other options. You can go to Quick Find, which is this left-hand side, and you can go with case base, or you can, here's case base. I don't know if you can see where my cursor is, or you can go all cases. Case bases is helpful because you'll then use the citator. The advanced search gives you an opportunity to use keywords and phrases, and there's also searches available through forms or precedent titles. If we look at the top ribbon, again, you'll see home, and then opportunities to search by general, by cases, legislation, commentary, forms and precedents, etc. And also dictionaries is a handy opportunity for you to search. So let's just try again with that Queensland Reports, because that's annoying me. And hopefully here it's much quicker. If we go to left-hand side, it should have cases, and that's what's missing. See, what I thought it would be, and I'll come back and I'll find this, I thought cases was here on the left-hand side, but I can't see it. Can anyone see anything that might relate to the Queensland Reports? I will find it. When I do, I'll post it, but I can't see it just at the moment, sorry. Maybe it's that, sorry, cases. We'll get there. I'll get there. All right. Australian legal words and phrases is very useful. If we go back to the top, you'll see the fourth one down, Australian legal words and phrases, and it takes you to dictionaries as well. So let's browse, or let's search rather, legal words and phrases. We'll type in fall. Okay, so if you've got something where you need to research a particular word, this is a handy way of doing it. And you'll see there that there are 35 results for the words and phrases, which is dictionary. But if we go back to dictionaries itself, then there are other ways of searching. So if you go to the Australian legal words and phrases again and try dictionaries, you can enter the same information and that will give you other ways of accessing material. Another thing you should do is look at Halsbury's and the Laws of Australia. Halsbury's is the Lexisnexis version of a wonderful encyclopedia of information. The Laws of Australia is the Westlaw version of that. So if we go to the home page of Lexisnexis and we go to Halsbury's, you have an opportunity here to search. So if we go to browse, you'll see it comes up with a list of different opportunities for you to search. If you go down to succession and expand on that, let's say you've got a situation where the stepchild of a deceased person comes to you and says, I want to challenge the will of his late mother. You would know that it's a family provision that you're looking for. So you expand on that and you'll see a list then of people that are eligible to apply for family provision. And if you drill down from there, you'll see a note in relation to those people that can apply, the grounds and jurisdiction to make the order. And there's a note here about stepchild under children. There it is, stepchildren. So that's another way of accessing information, to use Halsbury's. And if you're going to Westlaw, use the Laws of Australia. So I started to show you the Australian Encyclopedia, Australian Legal Dictionary, Encyclopedic Australian Legal Dictionary, and that's a useful way of finding information that is relevant to individual words. All right, so please have a look through all of that material. We're almost out of time, but I do want to show you Lexis.com. Lexis.com is obviously related to Lexisnexis, but it's the international version. It's the American version, if you like, which is relevant to we're getting there. So this is the American version. So if you're looking for something in Australia, remember that you need to look at international law, which will be relevant to Australia. This is also very useful when it comes to English case law, but again, look under international and you'll find information over there on the left-hand side. All of the old English reports are here. And while that's not very common access now, it certainly was when I was going through university. All right, so we've covered a few more tonight. Next week will be our last night of legal research. Please continue to search through the different platforms that are available to you. Have a look at Lexisnexis and Westlaw in particular. Next week we're going to look at Westlaw, we'll look at First Point, we'll look at CCH, and I want to finish by referring to some other, perhaps slightly more obscure resources that are available to you, like High Non Law and Informit and court practice websites, and then of course EndNote, which was very valuable. Okay, any questions? All good? All right. Thank you for your attendance. Please keep working through these. The legal research skills textbook I suggested is this one. That is a practical guide to legal research, and it's now in its 4th edition, and it is a Thomson Reuters publication. It's very good in that it does have up-to-date information, but it actually works through different examples. So you have a scenario, and then it takes you to different places where you might find answers to that scenario. So that's a good textbook. Okay. All right. All the best. We'll end the meeting. We'll see you next week, and good luck with your next assessment. You should be well and truly on top of it. We're about 2 weeks away, I think. Remember, very hard to get an extension, and there is a cutoff on this one. So we're very lenient for the first one. Next assessment, not so much. All right. All the best. We'll see you next week.